On December 14, 2010, supporters of Chicago 2011 mayoral candidate, the former Illinois U.S. Senator Moseley Braun, invited the grassroots and the mainstream media to a breakfast gathering at Pearl's Place, located at 39th and Michigan Avenue, where she briefed them on her plans for city government if elected mayor. Here's what she had to say to Residents Journal about improving economic conditions for low-income people across the city in the areas of housing, employment, and social services.
What is my plan? Well, okay, let's start with job creation, because that's the single most important thing we can do to help improve the quality of life for low-income people. We have the opportunity to, I call it, cut the red tape and roll out the red carpet for businesses that want to create jobs in the community, in the neighborhoods. That entails making it easier to get licenses and to get through the city bureaucracy in terms of getting started. We have the opportunity also with city funds to leverage those funds so that investment capital will be made more readily available for businesses that want to start here in Chicago. What does that mean? That means that instead, both on regard to equity and with regard to loans, the city has the capacity to use some of the venture capital investments we're making right now to leverage those into small businesses that are being created in the neighborhoods. The city also has the ability to leverage its deposits and the like so that banks that have a CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, obligation already, that those banks will be further incentivized to lend money to small businesses creating jobs in the neighborhood. So that's one thing that we can do. We can also begin to tap the capacity of the not-for-profit sector to help connect businesses. There's a program in San Diego right now called San Diego Connect, and it's a not-for-profit operation that brings together technology, the universities, the business and financial assets and ability, the city government, state government, and they bring it all together to connect it so that somebody who wants to start a business is afforded every possible opportunity to incubate that new business. We have, the Urban League actually has a new program for helping businesses get to the next step. We can do more of the next one to help businesses get started in neighborhoods. So that's one thing. So that's job creation. The second thing that you asked has to do with housing and affordable housing. Well, the idea of affordable housing kind of got off track when we started just tearing down public housing and giving people a chit or a voucher to go find housing wherever they might find it. And the result is, quite frankly, all those developments that got torn down over there, people still to this minute don't know where those people went. Seriously, it's like this, just tore them down and say, okay, go have at it. Well, I believe that we have an opportunity, one, to create affordable housing, to support the development of affordable housing, but I don't think that means we just write off the opportunity or the option of protecting or retrofitting the public housing that we have. I think that gives us an opportunity, a green opportunity, if you will, to use some of the more modern techniques in terms of retrofitting for windows and energy conservation and the like. So rather than seeing it as a burden, I see it as an opportunity to provide quality, affordable housing for people at the same time that we help improve the neighborhoods.
Okay, any other questions?
And social services quickly.
And social services, well, I'm going to be honest with you. What I think needs to happen is that we need to kind of cut out some of the bureaucracy in terms of social services. You got agency on agency on agency on agency doing different stuff, and it doesn't ever come together in a cogent way for people. In fact, I just saw, not far from here, there's a WIC program, and I've been over there and I've seen the WIC program. People have to take the bus to go get the WIC support, the milk and whatnot, and I've seen big milk trucks come up pouring milk into the sewer because there not enough folks can get over there to get it. So quite frankly, social services lacks the kind of coordination that it needs to have to provide the people with the support they need. I think we'd be better off reforming that in a way that allowed, and make it people focused, so that there's a family that is in need of services, that has some issues with juvenile justice or food assistance or whatever, that there will be a central place where that family can get the support they need on an ongoing basis, instead of having to go from pillar to post in search of support.
Okay, we have a question.
In addition, Moseley Braun, who is also the former ambassador to New Zealand and Samoa, outlined her plans for minority set-asides in the city, the Chicago Police Department, and ex-offenders if elected mayor.
In regards to minority set-aside, what are your feelings in regards to minority set-aside? That's trouble.
No, it's not. I mean, that has been the law now for the last couple of decades, and quite frankly, we've had to fight to hang on to the set-asides. When I was in the Senate, there was a real effort to repeal set-asides in transportation, which represented billions and billions of dollars nationwide. If you think about it, it really is a majority minority set-aside, because women are half the population. Okay. When you add the percentage of the population represented by African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Indian and Native Americans, when you add all that together, you've got a majority of the population. The whole idea behind it is not to do a special favor for these people based on their group identities. The whole idea is to open up our economy to include people, to have some diversity in the way that the money works in this country, so as to serve the interests of the whole country. If you just have a narrow slice of people, not just running things, but directing all of the money, you wind up with the kind of social dysfunction that we have in this country right now. That's how we got to where, that's why you have this widening gap between the rich and the poor. That's why you have whole communities that are left to rack and ruin with no job creation. The more we integrate and open up this economy, the more likely it is that people will take those steps in their own private endeavors that will help uplift and improve the quality of life for all Americans. So if you got the money to open up a business, you would more likely than not open that business somewhere here on the South Side. You would more likely than not hire some of this young man's assistants and people, his people. You would create, and in so doing, you would touch all of those families. Those families would then be able to make their own contribution to the community as a whole. It would help with the family stay together, so that the little boys would have daddies to help raise them, and little girls would have mothers who had something on their mind other than watching television. That's how you build community. And so the fact that the set-aside program has been so corrupted in so many ways. I mean, in the city of Chicago right now, minorities are getting less than 7% of the contracts. How is this possible? How is this possible in a city that is majority black and brown? Right? So we have to take concrete steps, not just verbiage and words, but make sure that the administration, the bureaucracy, is at every level made, not just sensitized, but mandated to do business in these communities, because in that way we will improve the neighborhoods and save our city.
Yeah.
In terms of top-down, the Chicago Police Department, I come out of law enforcement family. My brother's here, my father, my uncle. So I come out of that, and I understand that the Chicago Police right now are more demoralized than they have been in my memory. We have a superintendent who does not relate to his troops. If anything, the troops are antithetical to him. So we have to, I think, start off by having some leadership at CPD that knows Chicago, that understands Chicago, that knows these neighborhoods, and can relate to the people in it, not as an occupying force, but as an ally and a support for the law enforcement efforts in those neighborhoods. That's the first thing. So that means, kind of doing a search to make sure, and a search within the department. We got the talent here at home. We don't have to go searching all over the country. Bring somebody in here who doesn't know.
Like your brother.
Right. Doesn't know where K-Town is. Okay? empowered to work with the police in that neighborhood. Right? And communities would come up with what they like to do, how they wanted to interface. And that's where groups like, when I was in the Senate, I passed midnight basketball. And the whole idea was not for young men to play basketball, but to give them some place to go other than hanging out with the gangs at nighttime, and give the police an opportunity to be mentors to these young boys, as opposed to just up against the wall kind of thing. So I think that if we pursue community policing, pursue midnight basketball, pursue community organizations, block clubs. Now remember that? Block clubs. Working and knowing who the police are in their neighborhood. Not this revolving door where you don't know who it is driving down the street looking in your front window. So, we need to make certain that we get back to old-fashioned policing. Not all of it. Some parts of old-fashioned policing were not great, but the better parts of old-fashioned policing, connecting the police with the community. That, I believe, is
Okay. We're going to...
And they were going to get back. I think that would be excellent. Should we get them to see how they help you out?
I'm glad you asked that. One of the things I forgot, because you go into these fora, and sometimes, you have to respond to something right away. And yesterday when I did the VOM interview, I forgot to mention that I'm on the board of the North Lawndale Employment Agency, which specifically is involved with both Beeline, which is an inner city business enterprise, but also something called U-Turn, which is a program that actually trains and helps ex-offenders get reintegrated into the economy as well as society. And they U-Turn gives ex-offenders some very important skills, work skills. You got some families out here where people have not worked a job, if you will, in 2 generations. And so they don't necessarily even know how to become reintegrated into society. Well, we've got some very successful models out here, like U-Turn, that will help people get the skills they need so they can be employed. And that consists of a lot of things. It has to do with work skills and an opportunity to have a job. Because a lot of employers won't hire ex-offenders. So we want to provide, again, as part of our incentivizing neighborhood-based businesses, part of that ought to be, if you hire ex-offenders, you'll get a credit. Well, I don't like to use the tax code on things like that, but you'll get some assistance in terms of a basis reduction on interest rate when you borrow money, that sort of thing. And so we can incentivize people hiring ex-offenders, but before we get there, we have to make sure that the ex-offenders themselves are job ready, and that's where non-governmental institutions like North Lawndale are so important.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause.
We lost sight of the people in the neighborhoods. This became more of an economic engine for a lot of people who were, trading paper, making money, and doing, because Chicago still, quite frankly, we are right now the leaders in terms of the trading activities and risk management activities worldwide. We're still doing some really phenomenal things out of this city, the business, but it's a business that's isolated with LaSalle Street, very high-tech, high-level stuff that does not touch the community. And I think that's the biggest problem. We have to be able to drill down and be specific in terms of how the money flows in the city so that everybody gets included and so that neighborhoods have an opportunity to do it themselves. That's where, that I think is the single biggest. And then add to that the lack of transparency. Our city government right now works like the criminal. You have to kind of figure out where the money is and what's going on. And when you figure that we not only have a city budget, but we've got the TIF budget sitting over on the side, nobody knows that's going on with that. And so I think put some sunshine on it. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. Right? Some sunshine on where the money's going and what the decisions are in city government. I think those two things. Remember the neighborhoods and put some sunshine on the process.
That here you are, same old woman from the black community that made history as our first black United States Senator. And with this election coming up in Black History Month, do you feel a sense of fate that here you are again? You made history before. And here we
Mayoral reference. We create the future by what we do in present time. I am trying to create a future for this city that works for everybody. That is my effort, and that's my contribution, and that's why I flunked retirement, flunked being an entrepreneur to step out in the public sector again and to try to do this. And with your help, I know we can win this election. I mean, the numbers look really good for us, and we just have to be able to mobilize, to get out there, run the campaign, and do a grassroots effort. We're not going to be able to compete with the folks who just want to parachute in here and buy an election. We can't do that. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is, one voter at a time, through the neighborhoods, getting people energized and out. Remember, the election's going to take place at about the second coldest time in the city of Chicago. This is not, they make these elections in February for a reason.
And we won't come out.
In the old days, that's exactly. In the old days, we used to call them precinct captain elections, right? Am I right, Howard?
That's right.
Precinct captain elections. That means that it's going to take a get out the vote effort. That means it's going to take some real energy and passion that will get people to leave their cozy homes in the middle of what could well be a snowstorm. Don't tell them this being Chicago, right? To get people to come out and actually vote, so we can win. And we can come in with one or number two. February 11th, we need to be one or two, because if we wind up being one or two, the February 22nd, 11th to 22nd, if we wind up being one or two in that, then for sure, I believe we win.
We win.